Good morning.
Sì, buongiorno.
Hello, everyone. I see that you're all connected, and welcome to this virtual meeting for the final event of our share project. We are at the same time sad that we won't be able to meet in person, but happy and confident that we're going to deliver a good meeting and be able to show what we've done over this 4 years period anyway. I'm immediately giving the floor to the Assessore for the Region Umbria, our regional minister for innovation, regional development, economic development, and also for the urban agenda, Michele Fioroni, for the official welcome from the Region Umbria.
Good morning to all. I want to give a warm welcome to all participants at this meeting, present and connecting, to discuss around a topic that has got a great interest, such as that of the conservation of cultural heritage. Unfortunately, I have to say welcome in this virtual place. Should be better to stay connected and exchange experience in real presence. As Chiara say, I'm not a man of culture. I'm in charge of economic local development of Region Umbria, of innovation, of digital. So some of you may wonder why I'm here. I'm here with you talking about cultural heritage. As the English say, cultural heritage is not my cup of tea. But the answer is simple, because the culture can and must generate economic value. And innovation can push cultural heritage and can enable the cultural heritage to produce economic value. Or probably you know that Umbria is one of the most important region in Italy for cultural heritage. Is the region, one of the region, third in Italy, with the highest percentage of cultural site in Italy, compared to the surface area and the number of inhabitants. In Italy, there are on average 33 cultural assets for square kilometers. And in Umbria, there are 53. So you can imagine how important is Umbria in this field. We have an incredible number of church, of saints. You know, the European route are strongly linked to the Umbrian history. You can imagine the importance of San Benedetto da Norcia. So that means that our region boasts an incredible historical and artistic heritage that deserve to be property valorized and preserved. So also I have to say to promote, because it's not probably we didn't made a good work in promotion of our site in the past. And digital technology that already are widely used in a various social and economical contexts could prove to be an essential tool to preserving and rediscovering and promoting the cultural heritage. I'm talking about a special kind of technology, the 3D technology, And that's why we are strongly focused of many startups oriented to the protection of the cultural site. Such approaches of conservation of our unique cultural asset will require the development of a digitalization plan. So the digital technology will be central in this project. And we need to valorize the most advanced technology that enable us to map all the monuments and the building that has got a high artistic value. So we want to map all the main monuments. You can imagine what does it mean in the case of Norcia, the earthquake, when the basilica fall down. And today it's very hard to recover the Basilica of San Benedetto because we do not have the map of all the in details of all these monuments. But this is a part of the stories because to map and scanning with 3D technology all the monuments not only help us to preserve and rebuild the monument in the case of as in the case of the Basilica of San Benedetto di Norcia, from Norcia, but also help us to promote the historical site in a different way. Like merchandising is the most easy to understand, but sometimes like happen in Academy of Fine Arts in Perugia, the copy of the bronze of Canova has been sent in China, and we gain great value because we allowed some Chinese company to make just few copies of this bronze. But we also can promote the our land with a digital experience, like sometimes happen in a Science Museum. There is very good experience in Vatican Museum, where or at the Uffizi of Florence, where the people can have the immersive experience inside the museum just because they they scan all the museum, all the paintings, and you can interact as you are in a real presence. So that's why we want to encourage the creation of an ecosystem of innovation that can support the birth of new startups specialized in the field of protection and promotion of cultural heritage. Digital offer today extraordinary opportunity for doing business also in the cultural sector. That's one of the strongest points of our region. That's why we want just a minute, please. That's why we want to develop new firms, new startups, because we need to specialize Umbria in some field. And probably one of the most important field is to develop the ones that enable to develop new technology in applied to the preservation of cultural heritage. The use of 3D technologies to capture and model cultural heritage objects and buildings and church and every kind of monument can be extremely useful to simplify and improve both management and restoration activities while decreasing their cost. Furthermore, they provide important advantages for institutions and firms that may develop brand new ways to promote the beauty of the region of Umbria and its traditional products, such as the masterpiece realized by our well-known maestri, the maestri that are so important in the history of our cultural heritage. So we strongly believe that art and culture will be a central aspect in our economic growth. That's our strength always has been there. And we have to think to a sustainability and innovative ways to manage, preserve, and promote our uniqueness. So let me finish my speech. As I told you, I'm not a man of culture, but a man of economic. And I want to give it to you all my best wishes for a fruitful and inspiring work session. Sharing experience is one of the strengths of the European dream. The cultural roots of Europe are strong and deep and can represent an extraordinary opportunity to develop for our regions. So let me say today, even in a virtual place, welcome to Umbria and my best wish for a fruitful and inspiring work session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assessore Fioroni. I think the Assessore has just showed us the way after share with this dynamic input about the innovation and sustainability. And I am sorry again that we're not going to be able to meet him in person because I can assure you that you would have learned that he's actually a man of culture as well as a man of economics. Anyway, thank you very much. And I'm now giving the floor to our president, the president of Sviluppumbria, Mrs. Michela Shurpa, for her welcome.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Thank you, Assessore Fioroni, for your words. Thank you, Chiara, for your introduction. I am Michela Shurpa, and I am very happy to welcome you as a new president of Sviluppumbria, the multi-purpose economic development agency for the region of Umbria. Actually, this is my very first institutional speech in English. This is an international conference to mark the conclusion of the Interreg Europe project SHARE, which has seen regions and cities from 7 European countries cooperating to study and exchange sustainable approaches to manage cultural heritage. Today, we are glad to welcome you from England and Hungary, Spain and Romania, Croatia and Sweden and more. Those of you who have worked with SHARE, with Chiara Dallaglio and her team, already know a part of what Sviluppumbria does. But leading and partnering European cooperation projects is only one of the ways our agency works to support Umbria's competitiveness and economic growth. We design services and activities to facilitate innovation and encourage the transfer of new technologies and processes from research to enterprises. We extend the culture of innovation to a broader community. Sviluppumbria plans action to support the creation and development of businesses and foster the innovation and internationalization processes of Umbrian SMEs. To help them reach international markets, we manage regional programs to provide incentives to join missions and trade fairs abroad, and vouchers for training and consultation services to develop and manage their export relationship. In Foligno and in our Ternis offices, we run incubators to host and accelerate the growth of startups and other small businesses who also receive integrated consulting, training, and dedicated financial services. Another way we support Umbrian companies is through the service of the Enterprise Europe Network, the world's largest support network for SMEs with international ambitions. Moreover, tourism is one of our key economic sectors, and we act as the Tourism Board for Umbria, carrying out strategic action to promote our attractions and destination internationally and in Italy, and managing the region's tourism portal. And finally, we manage more than 700 real estate assets owned by the Umbrian region. So you see, SHARE's core missions touches on nearly all our areas of expertise. The project has studied innovative ways to manage cultural heritage for the benefit of residents, tourists, and businesses. Speaking as the Tourism Board, I'm very sorry that those of you with us online can't be here in person to enjoy Umbria's world-class cultural and artistic treasure, but I'm sure we will have other chance to live this experience together. And I'm proud of the impressive work that the project partners have carried out. And I'm hopeful that the research outcomes and good practices we'll hear about today will contribute to the promotion, protection, sustainable development, and accessibility of all of our heritage assets. Thank you very much and welcome again.
Thank you to our president. And yes, we're very proud as SHARE to have had the president newly appointed as with us for a first international speech and presence at this meeting. So yes, thank you very much, President Michela Schurpa. Before getting into the presentation of SHARE and our results, I'm now giving the floor to the representative, our project officer from the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat. Now, the Joint Secretariat has been a great support and help to us and to all Interreg Europe projects in steering among all the difficulties that we've encountered, especially in this last period. We've had only benefits from their help and their cooperation with us in managing and implementing the activities that we had in our project. So I'm now giving the floor to Alexandra Niechajovic, hoping that I pronounced her surname properly, since I've always called her Alexandra up until now, for her presentation.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Oh,
ci fa molto piacere di essere qui con voi, anche se solo virtualmente. Adesso continuo in inglese perché good morning everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, even through this virtual means. Thank you very much, Chiara, for your nice introduction. From our side, I have to say that it's been always a pleasure to work with you. And it is also a pleasure to be here now with you to celebrate your achievements, which are quite impressive, as we're going to see later. Also, from my personal side, working as a finance officer, I don't always have this contact with achievements, with what you really did during your project. So for me, on the personal side, it will be very interesting to hear more later in your presentations on what your project and your project partners have done. So let me share. We prepared a little presentation, and let me try to share it. I guess this is how you do it. Like this. Yes. So my colleague Eilish, who's the policy officer of the project, either already managed to join the meeting or is following on Facebook. So we are both here and we are really happy to be here. So let's start with a few words about our program, for those of you who are maybe not so familiar with it. So you know that we had 4 calls in Interreg Europe, and we approved 258 projects, which corresponds to 322 million euros of funding. So we are a pan-European program, so we cover 30 countries, so EU countries plus Switzerland and Norway. And we are very proud that we managed to attract NUTS regions, 90% of the NUTS regions from our program area. These 258 projects are composed of 2,000 partners, so a lot. And 25% of our partners are managing authorities, and we are very happy about this because we want to work with managing authorities also. And even more, managing authorities are involved as stakeholders to our project. So we are happy to have you with us with our program. What have we achieved in the past few years? And when I say we, I really mean you, the Interreg Europe projects. So almost 3,000 good practices have been identified in our projects, by our projects, and 1,780 of them have been validated by our experts. And I'm really happy to say that all 5 of shared practices, good practices, have been approved by our experts to be published in our good practice database. So this is an achievement that you can really be proud of. What we are working on in our program is to increase the capacity of the staff of the institutions participating in the program. So we are also very happy with the indicator staff with increased capacity. As you can see, almost 12,000 persons with increased capacity have been reported already by our projects. Also in the domain of action plans, we are doing really well, 866 action plans by our projects. And this is only 140 projects that have finished phase 1. So a bit more than a half of our projects have reported these achievements. And already these figures allow us to almost fulfill our target that we included in our cooperation program. So we are very proud and very happy of these figures. As for results, 126 projects have reported already 402 policy changes. This is as of September 2020. We did a small calculation, and this means that 161 millions of euros that we invested in these 126 projects influenced 617 million euros of funds. So €1 invested in an Interreg Europe project gives 3.8 euros of funds influence, so a pretty nice leverage effect. I've been mentioning projects, but the second pillar of Interreg Europe is the policy learning platform. The policy learning platform goal is twofold. One is to foster collaboration between the projects, the communication between projects, contacts, and cooperation. And the second was to open kind of the knowledge that is gained through our projects to a larger audience, to regions or institutions that couldn't participate in Interreg Europe projects. They can register to the community of peers. We have almost 18,000 members. They can use the good practice database, consult the good practices validated by our experts. Also, there's expert help can be requested from our policy learning platform experts. We have been having peer reviews, for instance. This is our start product from the policy learning platform. So these are peers, peer regions, peer institutions that meet for 2 days to address a common challenge. We continue with the peer reviews despite the COVID-19 crisis. We just needed to change the format a bit, and we are organizing them in the online form, but they still continue. 13 have happened already, and there are still 9 more to come. So you see that even though we don't have any more calls for projects, the policy learning continues thanks to the peer reviews and policy learning platform in general. I mentioned the COVID-19 crisis, so we cannot avoid discussing this in the current situation. So you can imagine that Interreg Europe was hugely impacted by the pandemic. But we came up with some measures that can help our community and our projects. So you know that there's an open call for good practices related to COVID-19. We also organize online thematic activities that maybe can give you some inspiration and help you how to overcome certain challenges. There is also a possibility to request support from our policy learning platform experts through a policy through the expert help desk. We also at the JS level we try to help our projects by proposing measures adapted to each project situation. So we're discussing it then with each project individually. And you can find more information about these measures on our website. You can't miss this information. Now, let's talk a bit about SHARE. So SHARE is part of the Cooperation on Natural and Cultural Heritage. We have 36 projects tackling this subject. Out of this, 10 projects address specifically cultural heritage, and only one, SHARE, focuses on the urban aspect. So we can definitely say that SHARE has helped the program to enrich its thematic diversity. So we are very happy with that. But it's not only this. You, meaning the entire team of SHARE, the entire team of Svilup Umbria, and also other partners participating in the project have been really active in program capitalization and program communication activities, and we are really grateful for that. Here on this slide, you can see several highlights from several events. On the left, I think you can see better than I do, but there should be Chiara and Kathleen in a matchmaking session organized at the European Weeks of Regions and Cities in 2018. Then in the middle, it's again Chiara at the Brussels annual event last year. And Chiara was ready to step in front of the camera to promote the project activities. And the last picture is the lead partner and a representative of the Umbria Managing Authority who attended a PLP workshop in Berlin in 2018. We don't have a picture of that, but also the Hungarian partner participated in a thematic workshop in Brussels in November 19 and was very active in the panel discussion. So we are grateful and we thank you very much for all your communication activities and your active participation to our events. Beyond this participation in our events, I have to come back to this, to your good practices and to them all being part now of our good practice database, because this is a collective achievement of all of the SHARE partners that you can be proud of, and it certainly shows the big potential of your ideas, of your good practices to inspire other regions in Europe. Coming to results, you have already achieved some interesting results. 4 policy changes have been reported to us. one from Sfilub Umbria in Italy, one from Extremadura in Spain. There's one from Romania, from Piatra, and one from Sibernik in Croatia. In these policy changes, there were three that involved new projects being funded, and for two of them, also there was improved governance. We congratulate you for these achievements, for these results, and well, there's still one more progress report to come, so we hope to see to see more from you. Speaking about the future, and what about the future of Interreg Europe? So you may know that in May 2018, when the new EC draft regulations came out, Interreg Europe was not present in them. Fortunately, at the request of the European Parliament and Council, in May 2018, Interreg Europe, thanks to this, Interreg Europe is back in the regulation. And thanks to this, in December last year, we held already a first programming committee meeting. And we are continuing with the programming work. But I can already share with you some information about what we plan to do, how the program will look in the future. So the program will stay pan-European. We will still have a similar overall objective, and we will focus on the same core target group. We will also focus on capacity building. The slight changes that might happen that we plan to have is to lighten the focus on structural funds. So you may remember that now in the current programming period, we had the requirement of 50% of the policy instruments addressed by the project partners to be structural funds programs, and we plan to reduce this number. We also plan to have more pilot actions, also to have pilot actions in phase one of the project. So this is a pretty significant change here. And then another change is to have only one single priority, Interreg-specific priority objective. This is to better reflect the nature of the program, which is capacity building, and this focusing on this priority will still allow the project partners to tackle all policy issues that are covered by the thematic scope of cohesion policy. So these are some basic information about our future program. What remains is for me to thank you, really, to Chiara, Kathleen, the entire project team, to thank you for wonderful cooperation. It's been a real pleasure working with you. For me and Eilish to be your project and finance officer from almost, I think, from the very beginning of the project, and your dedication, your presence, it's really, I'm I'm a bit moved that it's already finishing, but we are really hoping to be able to work with you maybe in the future program. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
You also moved us, Alexandra. Me and Kathleen here are wiping away tears. That was a lovely presentation, really great presentation on a personal level and on behalf of the entire partnership. I thank you for the really kind words you said to us and for highlighting what we've done as a project. Sometimes when you come to the end of it and you're really tired, we forget all the work we've done before, and that was a reminder of our commitment to the project. And thank you so much. But also thank you for highlighting all the results of the program as a whole and for this brief overview of what's going to happen. A few words here we are here in Foligno in our one of the offices of Sviluppumbria. The main one is in Perugia, then we have this one in Foligno and another one in Terni. The office in Foligno allows, as a big meeting room, so it allows, we chose it because it allows for some physical presence. We have a few stakeholders present here, and we're happy to have some faces in front of us. But also Alexandra and all of you, that we also have the Italian national contact point for Interreg Europe, because Sviluppumbria has been recently, just a month ago, been awarded this contract from the region Umbria to cooperate with the region Umbria as acting as the national contact point for Interreg Europe. So I see here Beatrice Morlunghi, my colleague, a different office from us and not part of the share team, who was eagerly taking pictures of your last slide, because that's, of course, a contribution to the work we are doing as part of the effort for the next programming period. So yes, Alexandra hopefully will still be there, not only as a national contact point, but maybe with future projects. We're getting now to the core of this event with the presentations coming from all the partners. Before that, I am going to just give you a very brief promise overview of the project, and then changing slightly the order. I will speak last after all the partners so that I won't bore you with my voice for two presentations in a row. So if I can have, we're just putting the presentation up so that I can give you an overview of what SHARE is about. Okay. SHARE means a sustainable approach to cultural heritage in the urban areas in Europe. We focused on an approach to cultural heritage in cities. Starting when we started with the main worry about relieving the pressure that residents and tourism, especially tourism in some cities, apply to our fragile cultural heritage. And of course, in participating to an Interreg Europe project, the focus was in changing the actual policies in order to make them more sustainable in terms of managing and promoting cultural heritage. The project lasted 4 years. We are ending now at the end of this 2020, our phase 2. So our work with the project, we started in 2017, our first year, with a budget of just a little over 1,400,000 euros shared with all the partners, with a co-financing from the European Regional Development Fund of 85%. And the list of partners has been already explained by our president, included Sviluppumbria. I represent Sviluppumbria here as the lead partner. Sviluppumbria is a regional development agency of Umbria, and we were supported by Region Umbria as the managing authority for our policy. The regional government of Extremadura in Spain, the Northeast Regional Development Agency in Romania, University of Greenwich, who was our advisory partner, and more about that later on. County Administrative Board of Östergötland in Sweden, Pan-European Group Cooperation Territorial Group in Hungary, and the city of Šibenik in Croatia. So quite a diverse group of partners, not only for their territorial representation, but also as a diverse group for the composition. We have cities, regions, region development agencies, and territorial groups, and a university. So quite a diverse experiences coming from all the partners. As I was saying, our main aim was to change or improve current policies dealing with cultural heritage, especially in terms of us providing inputs and integration in sustainability and new approaches to cultural heritage. As you can see from the pictures, our main concern at the time was about relieving the pressure from tourists and residents alike to our cultural heritage. Of course, over tourism now seems like a dream that was shattered, and we would probably would like to go back to those levels. But again, COVID-19 is actually providing us new inspiration to make our approach to cultural heritage better. And even though we are of course hoping to have more people traveling and visiting Europe, we still think that finding ways to make this more sustainable is important. Therefore, we brought together these different partners with different experience in order to approach the problem of relieving the pressure and finding solution to making our cultural heritage in fragile urban settings more accessible and sustainable for all. What we did as part of our project was sharing experiences among us through study visits. So we traveled a lot and saw how things were done in other countries. We carried out a lot of local and common analysis in order to share our policies and our experiences in a way that was common to us. We did benchmarking and SWOT analysis on policy tools, case studies on regional policy, and a field survey on over 6,000 people all over the partners regions, residents, visitors, and small enterprises. So that we could actually get from our communities the information we needed in order to improve our policies. We had all in all 51 local stakeholder meetings, and stakeholders were involved in 67 policy learning events. As we will see and we learn from others, the participation of local stakeholders was one of the key features on our project and a part of the Interreg Europe program aims. And as part of our targets and results, we produce 6 local action plans, one from each region participating. The action plan are the instruments, the tools that we devised in order to improve our policies. In 2018, during the European Year of Cultural Heritage, we share was awarded recognized as a relevant initiative and as a contributors to the European Year of Cultural Heritage. As I was saying, a key feature of SHARE and all Interreg Europe projects is the participation of the local stakeholders to the activities in order to build a strong relationships with them, carrying on even beyond the lifetime of the project. And we had a lot in Umbria, but everywhere, a lot of meetings with our stakeholders. And I must say that stakeholders were really, really, really important to us because they provided us information and inputs on how to improve our policies. Despite the restrictions on participation to meeting, I'm very happy to say that the municipality of Foligno is here present in this room with us as one of our key stakeholders, because our main stakeholders were the 5 cities of the urban agenda, participating in the urban agenda, and Foligno is one of them. So I'm happy to say that they're here. Another important achievement of SHARE, and Alexandra mentioned this, but there's more to say, is the international visibility that we gain through our communication and participation to events. We've been, as a SHARE and as single partners, present at a lot of international meetings and conferences. 2 editions so far of the European Week of Regions and Cities in Brussels in 2018 and 2019, and upcoming 2020 edition that's going to be only online. Present last year at the Lübeck event in Lucca. Lübeck is the major international conference in Italy in cultural heritage in October 2019. In Brussels, our Hungarian partner was present in a policy learning platform event organized in development, healthy and prosperous urban ecosystems. present, as Alexandra said, at the Cultural Heritage for Sustainable Development in Cities and Regions event that was organized in Berlin by the Policy Learning Platform during the European Year of Cultural Heritage. At the thematic workshops organized by the Policy Learning Platform on Mobility, and we talked about sustainable mobility as part of our policy improvements in Manchester in 2018. In London, as part of the activities done by our advisory partner, who organized during our meeting at the University of Greenwich a sustainable management of heritage tourist destination conference, where all partners participated. And then a stakeholder political debate organized as part of our activities with the inclusion of political representatives from all partners areas coming from the stakeholder groups, organized in Vastena in 2018. We haven't listed it here, but Alexandra mentioned the participation, the list of all the other projects, Interreg Europe projects dealing with cultural heritage. But again, in Vastena in 2018, and with the cooperation with the Policy Learning Platform, we also made a joint presentation with Green Pilgrimage Project, as we both deal with cultural heritage in a sustainable way, and we made it together in Vastena, as we share the same partner region in both projects. So that's an addition to what we have here. And as a last slide and an invitation to all of you who are here, we will be present at the European Week of Cities and Region 2020 edition online. So you'll see the information with a workshop on resilient heritage and cohesive society. We are cooperating with two other Interreg Europe projects in Newcastle and Fitch, both dealing with different aspects of cultural heritage. So we'll be discussing cultural heritage in more than the sustainable approach, and also with the participation of a representative of DG Culture from the European Commission. So please join us if you want in October, on 14th of October, and please register at the address you see there. But if you get in touch with us, we'll send you the correct address and connections information before 27th of September. I'm finished with this brief overview, and as I was saying, I'm going to leave my presentation of the action plan at the end, so that I now going to give the floor to the partners, starting with the regional government of Extremadura in Spain. Patricia Mora is our speaker, right? And I'm going to give the floor to Patricia Mora for the presentation of the action plan. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Chiara. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to share my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, well, first of all, I'm really, really sorry we're not there. We're missing you all so much. It's been terrible that we couldn't finish properly the project together, and it's been such a great experience as usual to work with you, all of you. But hopefully we'll find some way to work together again. It's been such a good experience that I hope we can anyway. Okay, I'll try to be within schedule. We would like to explain what's been done in the region of Extremadura in Spain during the SHARE project. We have been working, as you can imagine, as a managing authority with an easier task than others, because we could actually influence the policies, let's say, easier or in a more direct form. I'll explain a little bit where Extremadura is, just in case you don't know. It's southwest Spain, a region, and it's a region which is not especially touristic, as it's not a beach area, but it does have a very important both natural and cultural heritage, which is a potential touristic resource, and we think which can be better promoted from the part of the policies, the heritage policies in the region, and definitely the SHARE project has been a very important issue there. We have been working in the area of La Serena. La Serena is a especially complicated area as it is sparsely populated, very little touristic at the moment, but with a lot of natural and cultural resources to be exploited. So it was, let's say, a challenge, but on the other hand, there was room for improvement. So we've had a bit of both. In a nutshell, I would like to explain what phase one gave us as a diagnosis in a nutshell of what the problems were concerning heritage policy in Extremadura. It was very important for us to have the first phase one works done and assessment correct, and we're very happy to have the SHARE project to do that, because we did come out with quite important conclusions on how to change the way the policies are drafted and implemented with the structural funds in our area. So on the one hand, we found there was poor coordination between administrations, which in Spain is especially important because we have quite a number of different public authorities concerning any responsibility. Also, a lack of participation of local community, which we thought was a real, let's say, drawback for what the potential of the cultural heritage promotion. Also, we found that there was maybe improvement, there was room for improvement in the way both ex ante and ex post analysis of impact of whatever cultural heritage activities were involved. So those were our main findings. And taking that into consideration, we decided to concentrate the objectives of our local action plan in protocols and different activities which could show the importance of the different, let's say, targets or objectives we have. So we found public participation as one of the main objectives to change. Also, coordination and communication among different administrations and entities involved in cultural heritage policies. Looking for sustainability in the actions, especially when we're talking about large investments concerning cultural heritage as an ex ante assessment. Also, a quantification and a proper socioeconomic impact assessment on the cultural heritage after investments have been carried out or activities have been carried out. So you can explain both to the public and to the decision makers what the cultural heritage is actually involving for the region. And then, as Chiara already told us, and also is coming out very obviously from the COVID situation, the promotion of innovative tools to promote and exploit the cultural heritage. Okay, so taking into account this, we started working with our stakeholders from the beginning. They've been involved from the very first weeks of SHARE projects. We've been working from the regional government, but with the province, also with the local action group in La Serena, and with two associations which gather all the municipalities of the area. The protocols, what we decided to do with our local action plan was through our actions, through our activities, trying to show the importance of the objectives that we have, our targets. So concerning public participation, we decided to include the creation of a map of cultural landscape of La Serena to define a cultural identity of the region. And then we have the design and the implementation of a dramatized cultural pilgrimage route combining historic routes, roads, natural landscapes, and heritage references in the county, and the creation of itineraries for star observation. That was how we wanted to show public participation, involvement, and how this could change things. Concerning coordination and communication target, we decided to have a common design of digital agenda for cultural activities involving all the different authorities responsible, and then the creation of a common network of museums and archaeological sites, and the elaboration of a joint communication and dissemination plan. in order to ensure sustainability of future actions with ex-ante assessment, we established a protocol for the creation of to be applied to the decisions taken when creating the Interpretation Center for the Promotion of Local Cultural Heritage and the integration of new smart cultural contents in already existing cultural facilities. As showing, in order to show the quantification of socioeconomic impact as an ex-post assessment, we decided to analyze and give value to a heritage site reference in the county, which is Cancho Ruana, to test the site, which you'll see further on, and apply the same kind of system to a cultural event, which has already had a few issues, well, maybe 10 issues already during the in the county. I'll explain further later. Concerning the new tools, the innovative tools, what we decided to do was, on the one hand, trying to create a network of influencers who act as bloggers in the promotion of the county's resources and the cultural resources, and the creation of a ranking system for main cultural assets in the county as a tool for promotion and marketing. Some of these ideas, most of these ideas, came from all the things we've been seeing during the first phase, traveling and all the different exchange of experience visits and study visits that we had with the rest of the partners. So some of the ideas have been coming directly from their experience, and some have been brought for let's say deriving from them. Okay, we also have an experiential format event and a biocultural blitz, which I'll explain a little later. I'll try to go into some of the ones that we've been able to implement, and I'll try to be quick, but basically, as you can see, these are all organized, taking into account the targets. Okay, concerning the creation of itineraries as star observation, this was one of the most interesting activities. We really had a lot of participants. Taken into account, it was only a first action, pilot action. We weren't too sure how this was going to work. We had 50 participants, and this coming from all kind of different well, not only the local associations, but also the authorities and also just the local community. It was very interesting, and this is probably going to be happening the rest of the years every year, because it was very successful. We also tried to have a very important evaluation of the activity, how the results has been, because we tried to establish that we need to have data on what has been happening, monitoring what's happening, so you can decide on how to carry out next events. Okay, so this is some example of what happened. It was very, as you can see, you have all ages, all kinds of people. It's obviously very dark because it was during the night, and it was really one of the nicest experience we had. Okay, then we have the sign of a common agenda, a digital agenda. This is something which seems very simple, but it was not happening because of the lack of coordination between administrations. So we had to organize a coordinating committee, and what we did was work with the local application, which makes it easier for everybody to share their different activities and put them all together so people can actually access them easily. So now we have 19 municipalities involved in the use of the app. We have 1,042 events published already in 1 year. This means that there's been 1,022 communications through the app in 1 year, and we have 10,000 users in this year. Also, 4,178 followers in the application in social networks. So this has been a great success also for the county. It's changed completely the way people get informed and access. And this is obviously a joint effort, which couldn't have happened if we hadn't had this approach. Okay, this is part of the elaboration of a joint communication and dissemination plan was part of the contents we needed for the application. And it meant that, again, it was a joint effort by all the different stakeholders involved and all the different authorities involved in the cultural management. So we ended up with a web page, a common web page. We also have a common profile in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. under the La Serena Paisaje Cultural, let's say, brand, with 1,820 followers and 60 publications, 2,000 likes. 22 entities sharing the profile, as I explained before. 27 press notes, the appearance in TV, and in 15 short videos to promote the cultural heritage. This was one of the idea was to set a protocol, so before an investment is carried out, there's an ex-ante evaluation of how it's socioeconomically, not economically, but socioeconomically profitable for the area, and how it should be managed in order to avoid, let's say, empty buildings or buildings which are not being able to be managed because of lack of staff. All the situations we've seen in some of the previous policies. So we did apply that. We did draft the protocol, but there wasn't an investment carried out in these years. So we couldn't really apply it in reality, but it's there for the use in the future. And it actually has changed some of the decisions already taken, as we decided that instead of creating a new interpretation center, it would be interesting to use existing buildings, even if they're not from the same administration, you know, organized common decisions and coordinated decisions, which is what we're trying to look for. Then again, we started to assess the impact of what's heritage references that we had already working on the area. This is the Cancho Urbano, which is a Tartessa site and already has a visitor center organized, but there wasn't much information about what was happening with their visitors, what kind of visitors we have, what kind of interest they have. We needed much more monitoring and understanding and analyzing those data, so we could understand where to go from there, how to better use it. So this has only started 2020, which was the way it was planned, but it's been a pity because obviously the COVID has affected a lot, all the visiting, and even some of the data collection has been well, damaged by that, but we'll try to get as much information as possible. And anyway, the seed is already sown, because really the people in the heritage site already aware that they need to have more information to be able to work properly. This is some images of this our center. And then we also did the same kind of approach to the Alcaldesa La Mea representation. It's a popular event which takes out every year. Is carried out every year. Obviously not this year. 2020 was very lucky that we started in 2019, so we have some data. This is again one of these events which came up from the community. This was really set up by the municipality, but then again there was a lack of information how logistics could be better improved, how we could organize mobility, how we could improve all the different aspects of the event, and taking data was very interesting. So we filled it. We managed to get 625 questionnaires by the visitors. We came up with results of 4,362 people visiting the village, which was not, these data were not managed when we started the project. And then we also organized, we knew which days they were coming, why they were coming, where they were coming from, and all that kind of information was very important to take decisions for the future. All these implemented actions have been carried out together with all the stakeholders. It's been a very important change of way of working, and it has set a precedent for the way that we're going to be working in the future. Okay, we also created a permanent network of influencers. This was also inspired by an experience we already have in Extremadura, in the area of Trujillo. And it's going to, this is not, we haven't managed to have our session. We were going to have a session in April, and obviously that wasn't possible. So we're actually setting it for the 17th of October. And hopefully we be able to have a presential event. If not, we're going to have to work obviously on a virtual basis, which is going to be a pity. But obviously for the influencers, it's not so hard. It will be much worse when for some of the other events we have. But anyway, this is for us is probably one of the most interesting events because the idea is that amateur, non-professional bloggers from um, uh, different strands of life. They come from, they maybe might be biologists, or they might be people who are archaeologists, just people who are professional, but then they are very interested in the cultural heritage, have their own way of influencing their followers and explain what the cultural heritage of the region is in a much, let's say, more convincing way. We think this is going to bring not only promotion, but also a kind of a more trusted promotion. So we think it's going to have a very high impact. Also, we organized the traditional harvest of La Serena. This was also organized 2019. That's why we managed to have all the participants and visitors and so on. This is new, and this was a very important event for the region, and it was a completely different format. It was working with the people from the different villages, and they were all involved together, and it was hopefully going to happen again next year, as you can see. Okay, and lastly, we organize our biocultural blitz. The idea comes from the bio blitz, which is a concentration in a few hours of specialists, people, experts from different fields, which come together to bring new contents, unexistent or just very difficult to find contents concerning both natural and cultural heritage. The lack of content is one of the problems we also found, and this brings together all kinds of different aspects. It brings experts together, which is very important. It brings a lot of contents to the area which we need to use to promote properly, and also it brings that day and the days after a huge impact in the networks, because it's going to be streamed and it's going to be something which is going to be having a high impact, we hope. This happened on the 14th of November 2020. And we think we already had the Bio Blitz last year, and it was a great, huge success. So we're really looking forward to this happening and giving you the results of this. Okay. Well, just to explain the end of the project and what we're going to happen, what was hopefully going to happening after the project finishes. We have already had a very a very close collaboration with all the stakeholders during these 4 years, especially the 2 second years. Our phase 2 was very active. We did get it. Took us a while to start. I must say, I would like to say that to Alexandra, because I think it's one of the problems with the Interregs. It takes a long time to start, but then phase 2 is very important. And for us, it was definitely the time where we could show things and we could get people to convince, to change the way they think. So for us, it was really important that we have the phase 2, and we will probably be happier if we had a few more months because of the COVID. But it's life. So there we are, and yeah. We finally influence policy. We expect. We've not only worked with the framework, the structural fund framework, which was active, but we're actually trying to influence the next framework, obviously, and not only from the managing authority, but concern also the province and all the different municipalities. So hopefully this has been a project which is going to change things quite a lot. Thank you so much. I don't know if I stuck to the time, but I've done what I could, and it's really, really a pity not seeing you all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patricia. Thank you, especially for squeezing all this huge amount of work you've done into such a short presentation. You just over the time limit that we're giving you, but really, it was so much work and great results. Just to say that I seem to think now that one of the problems with regions and policy that applies to regions is sometimes the lack of coordination and among the key actors working on the policy, something that will come back in other, as we can see in other of our policy presentations. I'm giving the floor now to Anna Paraskiv from the Northeast Regional Development Agency of Romania, asking her and all the following presenters to keep to the time limit so that we can finish by the time we have in the agenda. Anna, thank you.
Thank you, Chiara. Let me share my screen. Moment. Okay. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Thank you, Chiara. My name is Anna Paraskiv. I represent Northeast Regional Development Agency as a partner of the SHARE project. And today my presentation is about the SHARE's influence in the Northeast region of Romania. Can I? Okay. The Northeast region of Romania is an area in which history, culture, and tradition complement the attractive surroundings. The main cities are Bacău, was an important customs point and trading center from the Middle Age and currently is a dynamic industrial and commercial center. Botoșani and Vaslui are former historic centers where trade and agriculture were highly developed. This town were witness of historical events and also home for some Romanian celebrated artists, writers, and musicians. Iași has a strong industrial base and is one of the main Romanian university centers. Piatra Neamț and Suceava are also industrialized cities, but they never lost their historical charm. Regarding the SHARE's influence in Iași municipality, first, I tell you that they propose to ensure the presence of the SHARE local offer in the online environment and also at trade fairs and exhibitions. For that, concrete, the actions planned by Iași municipality were to create a visual concept for all products, online or physical, around the active and selling-oriented invitation Visit Iași, and to implement an online destination presence plan. They will conduct a physical offline package as a modular kit, adaptable for all kinds of events, travel and incoming tourism fairs, business or educational conferences, political and diplomatic meetings, and so on. After the intervention of the SHARE project, Iași municipality plans to develop the city brand strategy and implement new measures to support and promote its efficiency internally and externally. Presentation films, virtual guides or brochures, and in printed format, stands at domestic and international tourism trade fairs, social media promotion. The estimated deadline is 31 of December 2021. About the SHARE influence in Piatra Neamț municipality, they proposed to improve the technical and public infrastructure of the local authorities. Concrete, they proposed after the interregional exchange of experience meeting that took place at Pech, Hungary in 2nd and 6th of July 2017 into the local action plan conducted within SHARE project. Was introduced the measure improving the technical and municipal infrastructure of local authorities, which will be put into practice by creating and implementing a smart application that will increase the quality of service offered to citizens. For this, in 2019, Mr. Dragoș Chitic, the mayor of Piatra Neamț, within the document entitled Piatra Neamț Local Governance Program in 2019, clearly expressed this measure. After that, the practical implementation of this idea followed by creating and implementing the application Piatra Neamț City app. In order to improve the impact of using of the new application on increasing transparency and improving communication with the citizen, we record in a monthly report the evaluation of the following indicator: the number of downloads of the application from the Android and iOS, the total number of users since the application's launch, utility, number of visits, number of active users and the medium time of use, geographical areas where the users come, cities, countries, the number of active users, monthly visit of Piatra Neamț website, the number of reported incidents or complaints that and what were they about. During the 13th months of function, we were the following values of the indicators. As you can see in this slide. Using the above data of Piatra Neamț municipality, they expect that by December 2020 to record a monthly average number of users of the website of 3,200 and an average monthly number of users of mobile application about 615. And now let me show you a short spot made by during the SHARE project about the few cultural heritage objectives from northeast region of Romania. Thank you very much for your attention. It has been a pleasure working in the Shares project team.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this presentation, for the video, and yes, thank you. And yes, it also you clearly identified the inspiration for the change of policies that you have identified in our action plan coming from Hungary. Again, this is one of the main aspects of all Interreg Europe projects, the exchange of information and experiences that we do as part of our project is instrumental in gaining inspiration for changing our own policies. And this is not only something that we do as part of our study visits, but we clearly identify this in our action plans. So there's a definite link between the change and the inspiration where this comes from. It goes to show how important interregional cooperation among different regions in Europe is in terms of sharing common solutions to problems that sometimes cannot be approached totally in their entirely at local level. We're now going to see the presentation coming from the County Administrative Board of Östergötland in Sweden. And I think they have a great team there, but I think it's Eva Nyström Tagesson giving the presentation. Eva?
Sigrid as well. They're both standing
by. Yes,
okay,
that's
Eva
correct. And Sigrid Jansson as well. Yes, we're both here.
Okay, so the floor is, oh, here you are. Floor is yours, Eva and Ingrid.
Thank you. We will share our screen. Ja, men om vi öppnar. Är det någon säkerhetsklubb? Där. Det tog lite tid. Can you see our screen? No. Yes. Oh, good. Thank you. Yes, hi, Eva and Sigrid here. Yes, there were some years ago as we saw each other in Vadstena. We met at the conference there, but I will still for all of you one more time again present Vadstena. Vadstena has been in the focus for our project here. Vadstena, as you know, was founded late among medieval cities in Sweden in the year of 1400 by Queen Margareta. It was then already a special place with a royal palace, which later in the 1370s was given to the new convent founded by Saint Birgitta. After the Reformation, King Gustavus I, as a mark of power, built a castle with materials from nearby monasteries. This demonstration of power against the Catholic Church and the old society has affected even the situation of today. Therefore, the general aim of the SHARE project in Vadstena, how to increase awareness of cultural heritage in the community, among politicians and officials, as well as visitors and townspeople, has been very fruitful. And also the further aim how to find a consistent and sustainable way to deal with it and use the town's cultural heritage and recognize it as a factor that makes Vadstena an attractive town to visit and live in.
Yes, and the policy instrument that we are addressing in SHARE is the Regional Development Strategy of Östergötland, and Östergötland is the region where Vadstena is situated. The aim of this strategy is to favor regional growth and development in Östergötland until the year 2040. This policy instrument is owned by the County Council of Östergötland, so we are not the owner of it. And this regional development strategy is a document that all regions in Sweden are appointed by the government to write. The The strategy is under revision at this time, and it is to be decided on during 2020. It has been delayed due to COVID-19. And this is also why we haven't been able to report a policy change yet, because the document is not finished yet. But our goal with SHARE is to integrate cultural heritage and tourism as important factors for regional growth in this strategy. And now to the actions that we had in our local action plan. The first one concerns the regional development strategy that I just presented. And as I said, the goal is to get cultural heritage and tourism to be recognized in this strategy. On the regional level, it's a very important task to create infrastructure that allows culture to exist as a resource in local life. And this aspect in the strategy is missing as it looks before. So we hope to integrate this in the new strategy. And since we don't own the policy, our way to influence this is basically to be a part of the process and to share the results from the project and the methodology and also the good practices so that we can integrate cultural heritage into the strategy.
Yes, and action 2. We had the opportunity to work with the County Council of the region Östergötland, as Sigrid mentioned, and therefore it had an impact on the regional plans. So the thoughts of SHARE project has been involved in the RUS, the Regional Development Strategy. This strategy is then to be implemented in the municipalities in the region. And action 3, the cultural route. The general aim of the SHARE project in Vadstena is to increase awareness of cultural heritage in the community among politicians and officials, tourists and townspeople. A further aim is to find a consistent and sustainable way to deal with and use the town's cultural heritage and recognize it as a factor that makes Vadstena attractive and sustainable. The app, the cultural route, has been one way of dealing with these aims.
Yes, and the fourth action is the reconstruction of the old thoroughfare. And this is part of a bigger change of traffic structure in Vadstena. This includes a logistics plan for heavy goods and the work on the main street as well on the courthouse square. And the goal for this reconstruction of the old thoroughfare is to have cultural heritage taken into account and have the traffic rerouted around the old center. Yes. And what have we done so far? For the regional development strategy, we have, as I said, been part of the process. We have participated at thematic workshops and meeting with representatives from the county council and given referral responses to different documents. The county council did during 2019, they invited us as a county administrative board and us as from the project, and they also invited other authorities in the region, municipalities, citizens, civil society. So this has been a very large process with a lot of people involved. And that's because they want opinions on what all these different stakeholders feel is important to integrate into the strategy. And we have tried to influence the process with learnings and experiences from SHARE. But as I said previously, the work is still in progress, so it's hard to tell right now what the influence have been.
And the work of the cultural plan has deeply influenced the Vadstena local action plan. It has influenced the plan for tourism and cultural heritage, and it will also coordinate with the visitors plan of the region. And the new cultural plan that we have been working on is now more focused on cultural heritage and tourism, more focused on business and city planning as it was than it was before. And action 3, the cultural route. Now the app is implemented, the route is built, it has been designed in an including and accessible way, and numbers show that the visitors of the cultural route has increased with over 30% in a year. So it's very successful and popular.
Yes, and regarding the reconstruction of the old thoroughfare, SHARE actually highlighted the need to review the municipality's traffic plan, and this was done through the content analysis of local policy documents that we did within the SHARE project. I think it was project 3 or something. So that really had an impact on the municipality. And the traffic plan for Vadstena stresses the importance of maintaining Vadstena's character as the medieval city. The transformation of the old thoroughfare into a low-speed street can be regarded as a way to reinforce the small town character. And in order to reroute motor traffic around the town center, the old thoroughfare is being transformed into a low-speed street with less traffic, speed-reducing measures, and more space for pedestrians and bikes. And now on to some other results beyond the impact on different policy instruments. We had a few other good things coming out of this project, and we wanted to highlight a few of them. I think the main thing that we have seen as a success is the extended collaboration with Vadstena municipality and also the county council when it comes to cultural heritage issues. We have also gotten better to include sustainability into the work with cultural heritage and the sustainable development goals especially. And also here at the County Administrative Board and also in the Vadstena municipality, the project has led to a very increased knowledge about EU-funded projects. Yes. We have also tried to disseminate the results from SHARE, and it has, among other things, been presented as a good practice in a published book. No, it's not published yet, but it will be published by all the county administrative boards in Sweden. So it's a forthcoming publication coming, we don't know the exact date, but hopefully soon. And we have also participated at conferences here in the region on the topic of the Agenda 2030 and cultural heritage. And there is a plan to actually write a strategy for Agenda 2030 in connection with cultural heritage. But that is not started yet.
And another good practice that identifies the cultural root. The central root, as I said before, is to tie together Vadstena two main cultural poles, castle and convent, and to even also to point out less known parts of the city's history, and to connect various objects with one root is a way to increase awareness of cultural heritage and the tourist potential, but also to make it more physically available and attractive for different kind of people of different kind of ages. Most historical towns have several cultural heritage sites, each of which tells each parts of the town's history. Making these sites more accessible and facilitating for tourists to find their way through a town is thus of general interest. The project's aim to emphasize less well-known parts of the town's history has been met by this means of making a walking app. And with this, Eva and Sigrid wants to say thank you, and we also want to say have a greeting from the former project managers, Matthias and Magnus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much to all the group, the team from Sweden, present and past. You've been great partners and contributors to the project. I'd like to highlight the fact that as it was shown here, there are some, as well as the impact and the results that we included in our application form and as targets for our project, there are unexpected impact that come out of working together, and the experience in Vadstena has shown this. There are more things that happens when people from different countries start cooperating that go beyond what we expect as results, something that happened in other regions, as we're going to see. Before giving the floor to our Hungarian partner, the representative from the Pan-European Territorial Cooperation Group, I would like to say that right now we have over 2,000 views on our Facebook streaming of this event. And I'm really, really happy about this, because this is a technical presentation. So it's not something that is just communication, and so it's less lively than most. It shows that there's interest about a project. So please keep on watching, and if you can, share with others so that more can join us for this second part of the presentation. I think that there's Saba is going to make the presentation. The floor is yours.
I think I managed to tackle the technical problems. I'm here, sorry. Just a second, maybe I'm smart enough to start the presentation and share with you. Can you see my presentation?
We don't see it yet.
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Oh, fine. I can't hear you, but I hope you hear me.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you. So just to start, as you might remember, we've been working on the World Heritage site page, and telling the truth, the more we went into the problem, the more we realized the contextualities of this dilemma, whether tourism is sustainable. That includes the World Heritage, the function of the World Heritage site, whether we can work without the vision of the city, because Page is a shrinking city. So we ended up with a landscape of actions or a system of actions that might tackle this complex dilemma from different perspectives. And honestly, as we were ready with these actions, then we started to be scared whether we can influence the actors involved. So the landscape of actions would inform or would include so much actors that we realize that it's a difficult challenge. I wouldn't say that, and mostly because the my client does not have direct influence on or formal influence on some of these actors. So we had to think of informal ways of influencing actions or convincing actors to work.
Sorry, just to ask you to please raise your voice or speak closer to the microphone, because we can hear you, but it's a bit muffled.
Can hear me.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so we came up with 6 actions that starts from physical infrastructure developments. As you might remember, we had a similar dilemma as Sweden. We have fragmented sites of tourism. We also raised the issue of urban space, whether space is working properly in order to integrate these sites properly. We came up with the data dilemma. Do we have enough data to underpin tourism decisions? We also raised an organizational dilemma that the landscape of organizations involved in tourism is too diverse, as the site itself. We also asked the question whether there is a proper strategy that can integrate these actors in a meaningful way. And yeah, we also raised the issue that even if the World Heritage Site is itself something that places Page into the globe, we are not sure that it's enough properly. So I wouldn't say that we could influence all these factors, but still we had results that even was a bit surprising for us too, if I might be honest, so much. Let's just go quickly through the results we had. Actually, one of the main issues that we could basically communicate to the city and understood it properly is that this dilemma that the main touristic sites are separated in the city went through, and there is the master plan revision, or the master plan is revisited at present. It's a 1.5-year long process, but our suggestion that we need to make structural changes in order to integrate the right journalist district with the historical downtown went through, and I have to say that if we are lucky, then our suggestions are going to be integrated into the new master plan of the city. Another surprising issue is that the things we suggested about the marketing of the city and the organizational suggestions went through in a sense, and it's surprising because unluckily we had municipal elections. It's natural, but we started the discussion with the previous leadership, and then we couldn't make sure that the next leadership would agree with us and would work together. And in a sense, we were lucky because the new mayor takes tourism very seriously, and he started a new program, Pages Open, which is in a sense in line with our suggestions that the marketing of the city, the marketing activities of the city has to be integrated, and organizational wise, the tourism landscape has to be integrated. There is a new person appointed for this role in the city, and we are quite optimistic because he was coming from the private sector, so he has a background on marketing tourism. The next important action is, I wouldn't say that we could achieve that smart city, the smart vision that we have, or the suggestions, everything we had, everything we suggested in the evidence-based planning of tourism, but the World Heritage Site Management Organization found it important, and now we are working with them on a smart ticketing project, which is it's important in two senses. One of them obviously is that we can make evidence, we will be able to make evidence-based decisions, hopefully, if our application is going to find resources. But also because this ticketing system would have an indirect influence, because through this ticketing system we are integrating the touristic attractions of the city. So it also has an indirect influence that we are looking forward to see the results of. And the other important issue is that we raised that the university might play an important role in the development of the inner city, and we try to highlight or draw the attention of the leadership of the university to see this common interest between the city. And it's important to convince the university because it's the biggest investor of the region, not only the city, but in the region. Just to give you an idea of the scale of it, the university invested 130 million euros during the past 3 years in the city for physical development, and 30 million and 20 million directly to the historical downtown. And the other important issue is that this big actor, when this big actor is investing somewhere, the market responds to that. So we have estimated that these 130 million euros attracted 30 million euro private investment. So we found it especially important to see that the universities see the common interest with the city for it can draw direct and indirect investments into the historical downtown, which is providing the urban context of the World Heritage Site. Last but not least, we gave a detailed feedback on the governmental program that finance World Heritage Sites, targeting the following areas and giving 11 policy suggestions. We are still negotiating. I wouldn't say that they agree everything, but some of the main results that I find important to mention here is that the program that previously integrated mainly or treated the World Heritage Site as a conservation issue. Now they think that it's just as much a tourism issue. So there might be a bigger coordination within the government between the actors of tourism and the actors of conservation policy within the government regarding to the World Heritage Site programs. So basically, that's all, and thank you for your attention. So I hope I was to the point and be on time.
Thank you, Ders. Yes, fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that with Hungary, we had the unprecedented problem of having to deal with a policy, the RDF Regional Operation Plan, that was already implemented fully before the end of our project. Therefore, the action plan that was devised actually addressed a new policy regarding tourism development, and also was an important contribution to the new programming period for this Hungarian region, and also introduced this new concept that fascinated all of us as partners of smart shrinking, something that wasn't adopted by other partners, but we were thinking about as a way to deal with those cities that, rather than having too much tourism, are losing residents for the outskirts and the suburbia that are cheaper, and how to deal with this in a smart, sustainable way. More about that in our share website if you want to look at that, because we have all the documents are being presented here, there, and of course we're available for further questions. I'm now giving the floor to the only city participating to this project, the city of Šibenik in Croatia, with Petar Misura as a speaker before the last presentation that will be done by me about Umbria. Petar, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope that you hear me well. I don't like this online meeting, but this COVID situation affected all of us, and it's glad to see many faces which I met in this project. And I'm sorry, you know that we should try to get to Perugia, but now it is impossible. And let's start it with our presentation. I can't start it because it's still a Hungary presentation.
C'è ancora la presentazione ungherese in vista, cioè avete il modo per staccarlo?
No.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay.
Okay.
Peter, you're on.
Okay. As the only city in this project, we have learned many lessons from the regions, but also we hope that we contributed to their policy changes. Why share? Because the city of Šibenik has rich cultural heritage, we have a constant growing number of tourists. Even this season, which was all affected by the COVID epidemic, was not so bad. In Šibenik, we had more than 50% of usual number of the tourists, but we have some negative issues like the population in the city cores and lack of strategic documents. All these facts motivated us to participate in SHARE. Also, we had lots of experience in new project. We had another collaboration with the region of Umbria, so we joined that because of the competent lead partner. There was interesting partnership, and what we liked in this project is a new methodology and art of doing. And what have we done in this project? We had lots of internal meetings. We had visits to other places, sharing knowledge with the partners, and lots of documents which we produce from the reports to our action plan. In first 2 years, we were collecting documents. We do SWOT analysis, benchmarking, which was new for us. Lots of B2B meetings, workshops. We learned lots from experts from the University of Greenwich, but also from the experts we have contacted as our external experts. We learned from the partner intervention, and also we had a good peer review for our Spanish partner. In first 2 years, what we done is identifying the tourists in Šibenik who like the cultural heritage. We had a large opinion pool with more than 1,000 questionnaires. So we learned that typical tourist in the city of Šibenik is middle-aged German woman who like to enjoy gastronomy and cultural heritage. And after all this, we produce our action plan. We divided our action plan to 3 goals. First goal is the development of innovative cultural tourism. We focused on new way of the tourism, especially on cultural tourism. The second goal is innovation of the historic city core, which is more affected with tourists than other parts of city. Also, this innovation needs physical innovation, but in goal number 3, we had functional revisitation of the city core. Also, from the previous project from Southeast Europe called Jewel, we learned that it's not enough only to innovate the city facade and the streets, also to keep functional in the city core, like shops, like everyday business, markets, and also that the city core is a part of the city, not only open museum from the tourists. What is new in the project of SHARE? Were indicators. We had strictly 2 years to implemented our action plan with indicators and risk management. So we put all our action plan into the numbers, and we have indicators, and now we will see what we have done in this. In implementation, about goal number 1 is innovative cultural tourism. First action was design a meaningful tourist product. We have in the plan 3 new tourist products. We realized 4. One of them you see in the city visit. It was dark side of the Šibenik. So we completely done this action. The next action is the development of innovative tourism and signalization systems. Our indicator were a book of graphic standard and location map design. We didn't do a book of graphic. It was postponed for the next year, but location map is designed. It was in the comic street art map style, and you will see in pictures soon. So we partly accomplished this action. In number 2, we put as an indicator that we put in action a coordinating body which is consisting of the people from the city government and city communal office company who was planning of underground infrastructure city in historic core, which was one of the objectives coming up from the people and residents and local stakeholders on our meetings. We started in the February this year, but we then realized that this body is too large and it will be not operational. So we put it on every project, different coordinating body. So we did it on 2 projects on this underground city garage called Poljana, which was completed, and small street called Queen Jelena, which is only 45 meters long street, but we on this street learn how to coordinate all the communal company and the city residents in that. Lots of lesson learned, and we can say that we change our action, but we completed. On the second project from the second goal, we also did the great job because for the first time permanent residents, we subsidized from the restoration of S.p.A doors and windows. There was one Opel call completed last year. There was call for the 10 houses which we renovated the doors and the windows, and now we are starting with the facades and the roofs. The subsidy is very large, 50% of all the cost, because it's expensive to restore the houses which is under protection of Ministry Culture. There are old materials and lots of experienced craftsmen must participate in this process. We also change in this action our policy. We have new budget line and new program for that, which didn't exist before the SHARE project. On our further goal, we had 2 action. It was development of city documents with stimulating measure for the functional revitalization of the historic city core. We started only this autumn. We contracted analysis of public space and doing on some document, but we postponed this action for the next year. And in communication with the resident and small and medium enterprise, we are now contacting, and action will be postponed to the next year. It's a publication of thematic brochures, how to work on some construction, how to live in the city center, what are the rules, why it's important to keeping cultural heritage intact with the new materials or something like that. This contacting is in contacting for the external experts and publishing the thematic brochures in process, and maybe we can even completely this year, but still I wrote that will be postponed to the next year. And let's show the evidence. We can show the dark side of the Šibenik as one of the new culture projects. We can see the mayor signing the document with the city residents about innovating facades, doors, and windows. We had lots of covered on media, and also we can see how the state is innovating with the new but materials who are identified with the old stone, which is Šibenik famous, and also put new infrastructure like the water waste management, electrical supplies under the surface and not on the facades. Also, we can see how it look street art map, which is the new way of signalization. We have the meetings on the open, even in the winter, due to our climate, with the residents, and you can see how now is looking the city center with new underground garage and new big public space in the front of the city library, in which we have a share meeting in Šibenik. It's completely new space. It was one of the most objectives. What was the problem in Šibenik with lots of cars on public spaces, and we put under the surface. I would like to say that during this process in the share project, we learned lots of from our partners. First, we learned on a way on city visits, like in the Romanian city of Iași, we learned about new cultural tours. In Spoleto, we see in city elevators, in Perugia urban centers. So lots of we collected from this city visit. We also learn from the documents of our partners, especially our experts. We are fascinated by the simplicity and clearance of the Swedish partners' document about tourism and business, which we incorporated in our action plan. And that's one of the most benefit of this project is sharing knowledge, learning from other partners. And now, 4 years after we started this project, we can say that from our 6 actions, from the action plans and 3 goals, we completely the 3 action 100%, and 3 will be done in next year. And we're changing city policy with the new budget lines, with changing documents. So we can see that we are very successful with this project. So with this project, thank you. And if you have any question, I'm available.
Thank you very much, Petar. We are getting to the end of these presentations. We are also quite on time, not just on time, but almost there. Okay, so the last presentation is about the Umbria Action Plan. While we put the presentation on, I'm just going to give you a spoiler. Our action plan is much different, or different in terms of focusing on one aspect of the change that the integration that we suggested, our managing authority, and is dealing with a policy financed by the regional development, European regional development funds for the region Umbria. The urban agenda, it's the Axis 6, if you want the technical details, dealing with sustainable urban development. We developed this action plan not only with the contribution of all partners, and with the inspiration coming from our partners, but with the contribution of experts, of our stakeholders, the 5 cities that are included in the urban agenda: Perugia, Foligno, Spoleto, Terni, and Città di Castello, the 5 main cities, but above all, from our managing authority, the region of Umbria, that was here represented by the Assessore Michele Fioroni, but worked with us with a group that was led by Carlo Cipiciani, the responsible manager for the urban agenda, and his fantastic team of Annalisa Cecchini and Michela Furiani. And I must say that even though they cannot be here in person and are following us online, they have been a great support as a managing authority to the work we've done. And this action plan is really the product of our joint work and commitment to the project. So yes, 5 cities, the 5 cities, main cities of Umbria. Umbria is a small region in the center of Italy, landlocked, mainly rural, but it's home to 5 cities that make up to 47%, about 47% of the total population of the region, and are covered by the policy in a way that is meant to improve the sustainable urban development of these 5 cities, but also is going to provide an example, inspiration, and tools for all the other smaller cities in Umbria. The goals included in the policy are the digitalization of all the administrative processes for the 5 cities, the reduction of energy consumption. I'm going ahead of the presentation, but since time is tight, I'm just trying to make do, because we are still on the, I don't know, yeah? I don't know whether partners I can see all, but I'm still on the main, the first slide, so I'm going ahead. Increase in sustainable mobility in urban areas and the improvement of conditions and standards of offer and use of cultural assets, the main focus of SHARE and the work we've done. Without going into the details, I was fully explained by our partners in terms of the importance of the interregional cooperation, the exchange of information that we've done with all of us. Maybe I'll wait a couple of minutes.
I don't know, it's not broadcasting.
It is the first,
Okay.
but then we need to go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. The actions planned, maybe the one before this one.
Okay.
The one actions plan. Okay. The 3 actions that we devised in the action plan are focusing on governance rather than actual investments, right? So this is the main difference with most of the action plans we've seen so far, where there were a lot of investments done. But we decided as part of our SHARE projects to focus on this, because we felt that because this is a regional project at regional level, one of the main one of the weakness of our policies was this lack of coordination among the cities. Something that is ironic considering that we're a small region, but it's still something that was quite evident. Therefore, the actions have to do with an improvement in the governance of the urban agenda, something that can be implemented now, is going to be implemented now, it is actually implemented right now, but hopefully it will be inspiration for the next policies dealing with this and other issues. So action number 1 was actually a proposal to improve the communication among all the 5 urban agenda cities in order to achieve greater cooperation and a better circulation and sharing of ideas. This, of course, can be formal and informal, but the strong inputs was to find a way that could make it formally among the 5 cities in order for them to exchange information in a way that was planned and traced. The second action that we proposed was an establishment of topical champions, municipalities that have a particular expertise to share with others, something that is key to some cities rather than others. It could be mobility in Perugia, and this can be transferred as an experience to the other 4 cities in the urban agenda, just to give you an idea. But in order to bring these excellent actions to the attention of all the cities involved in the same policies. And this, of course, can be achieved also through action number 1, so the greater cooperation among the cities. Another action that we identified as part of what came up during our work with the stakeholders was the need to improve the messaging towards residents, visitors, and businesses, as small and medium enterprises, about behavior and choices about sustainability. Something that can be done with communication, so dealing, using the urban agenda or other tools, but in order for news, information, awareness about sustainable choices, in order for this awareness to be available, freely circulating among our communities. The actions that was actually implemented, so this is the success that was part of our results, is actually the achievement of action number 1, the improvement in coordination among the 5 cities, because in July 2018, a regional decree established Luce Pubblica, a capacity building urban lab, an urban lab in order to build a common culture, a shared language, a uniform working method among the cities of the urban agenda. And the urban lab is something that was devised by the managing authority, gaining inspiration and inputs from SHARE. The Urban Lab has been meeting regularly since its establishment in 2018. So actually the result of the action plan was achieved before the end of phase 1. Is still ongoing. It was stopped during the lockdown by COVID, but it's still ongoing and will keep on going after physical meetings, regular physical meetings will resume. One of the main inspiration for this was not only the exchange of information, but it came from the meetings, regular meetings that we have with the stakeholder group, because this helped us and the managing authority and demonstrate how important and how fruitful it is to bring together staff from the different cities in order for them to discuss common issues. And another inspiration, especially, I can say that all the work we've done has provided us a lot of great ideas on how to do things better. But another inspiration came from our Romanian partner, because the Romanian partner, although the region is much bigger and the issues at hand are different, has a same approach to urban development. There's a regional development plan that encompasses the 7 județ, the 7 provinces and the cities, and their approach to urban development was a great inspiration for our action plan. As was also shown by partner in Sweden, there are other impacts coming from a project that have not that were not forecasted at the beginning. It was unexpected successes that we had coming from our work together. I'm going to show you a couple of them. The first one is something that we experimented here in Foligno, in this city. I see the municipality of Foligno nodding in agreement. And that's a new way of meeting in order to stimulate creative ideas. The walk meeting in the open air while walking, discussing things that have to do with work. In this case, the urban agenda, issues about sustainability and cultural heritage and how to deal with it in cities. Something that we did at the end of 2018 here in Foligno. So it's 2 years ago, because it was a September, where we spent 2 hours walking around Foligno, enjoying the views of Foligno, a really pretty city with a lot of cultural heritage scattered around the center, and ideal for walking because it's one of the few flat cities in Umbria. Umbria is very hilly, where we were amazed to realize that while walking together, even though we were quite a close-knit group of people who had become friends over the working of the project, we actually talked only about work. There was no chit-chat, no gossip, no distractions coming from personal issues. We actually talked about work. And a great connection was established among all of us coming from different cities, from us as Sviluppo Umbria team, experts, and other stakeholders, as well as the managing authority. Another new way of working we've experimented along with the region Umbria is the consultation of a panel of citizens in order to ensure a representation of gender, age, and geographical distribution in a way that went directly to the single citizens rather than the usual representative of associations or larger groups that usually attend the kind of meetings we do in order to get a bottom-up approach from our policies. Going directly to the citizens provided us with a novel point of view on the issues of sustainability and the issues of how to improve our lives in our cities. And it also made us and the region aware of how important it is to listen to citizens, because this is an element that is missing from most planning process, where is a pale substitute for this. It is actually having these groups participating to roundtable. But of course, having the voice of single citizens is also important. It's time consuming, but interesting and important, and something that could be improved next policies if incorporating in the programming structure of our regional policies. Finally, as it was said by Alexandra, we also identified one good practice that was published in the Policy Learning Platform and the Interreg Europe website as part of their range of good practices from all projects. This is the San Francisco way. Apparently, it's got nothing to do with the urban agenda, because this is a rural trade that actually goes through most rural communities, and it's also a way to improve the approach of our tourists to our territory, because it's walking, cycling, and also a riding trail. So a way to enjoy a region not by car. Following on the steps of St. Francis, but it's more than a spiritual trail. It's actually a way to really enjoy the countryside. But at the same time, although being one of our most attractive tourist feature, something that is growing in importance and in attractiveness, especially now after COVID, it's also, if we want it to be, a way to connect the 5 urban agenda cities, because it actually goes through all 5 of them. So it is a slow and sustainable tourism trail, but also a way that residents can use in order to travel among the different cities in a way that is not by car. And that's it. For us from Umbria. This is the final presentation of our action plan. I'm now leaving the floor to our expert. We were supported in our work here in Umbria for the development of the Urban Lab from one international expert that is outside of the partnership, but he's an expert on sustainability and management of sustainable assets, and Andy Fryer, who's here with us. He's actually traveled from England to be with us. So thank you, Andy. Who's going to give us an overview, after all these single presentations, very technical, an overview of the key features and the good practice that we had during SHARE in each of our regions. So, Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chiara. It's nice to be here, and I haven't broken any international laws in any way to be here at all. Just following up on the British situation at the moment, as you'll all be aware. Anyway, it's been great to be part of this project over the last 4 years. 4 years. What I wanted to do was just give a very brief overview of some of the best practice which we have seen in the various projects taking place through SHARE, through all the people who have been involved in the project. Before I kick off with those ideas, I wanted to very briefly, just sort of, because we obviously we use these words cultural heritage and we use these words sustainable management, and we assume that people know what we're talking about, and obviously the people in the project know that, but if there's people out there watching at the moment who don't know, I'd just like to do very brief. So cultural heritage, we're talking about buildings, we're talking about landscapes, festivals, traditions, the tangible and the intangible assets. So it's a very wide range issue when we talk about culture, cultural heritage. When we talk about sustainable management, we are talking about environmental issues, economic issues, social issues, and also legacy issues. So it's that combination, that intersection of where economics, where environment, and where social and society meet, and the way in which we try and manage those in the most sustainable way. And then who are the people who are involved in this? There's four key groups. We've got local people, people who live within those cultural assets, whether they are in or around, whether they work in them, whether they are accessing education, whether they are actually residing or working in those spaces. So local people. We've got businesses who operate, whether they actually utilize the asset or whether they are just living and working in that space. Businesses have to operate within the cultural assets. We have tourists who come and visit, and then we have professionals who work in cultural heritage management. So those are your four key groups of people. And when we're talking about sustainable management of culture, we have to try and involve. And then what are the key issues facing cultural heritage? Well, we have pollution, transport, climate change, population pressures, financial issues, urban development, and of course, at the moment, pandemics. But there are ways in which we try and manage these, have to look at these different competing pressures to actually result in sustainable management. So I want to show some examples of some of the best practice which we've seen across those 6 partners. If I can start off, what have we seen? Next slide. Oops, is that right? How am I going to the next slide? Just that one?
I've just been using the down arrow.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you. So one of the first examples is the repurposing of heritage buildings. That is, we've got most of the cities and the spaces where we've been visiting and experiences have ancient buildings, ancient spaces, which no longer are being used for what they used to be used for. And there's a danger that they just sit there and rot away. So finding a new use for them is a very sustainable way of ensuring their future usage. And there's 2 examples here. We have Pécs in Hungary. This is a ceramics factory, which dates back to the 1800s. It's no longer really used for ceramics, but it's now been developed into a cultural space. There's a cinema in there, there's a planetarium, puppet theatre, the university uses it, and it's now a living space rather than being a redundant industrial building. And on the other picture there, we have this old railway bridge in Spoleto, here in Italy, and which is now being repurposed as a cycle route. So once again, it has a new life. It's no longer used for railway, it's now used for cycling. And because it has a use, people value it and therefore more willing to actually ensure its survival. One of the key things when we look at managing culture, and particularly cultural heritage, is improving access, making sure that as many people as possible can actually enjoy that cultural heritage. And 2 examples here we have, once again, in Pécs in Hungary. This is a relief map, the top picture, which allows for sighted people to see a bird's eye view of the area, so they can get an idea about how spaces are relate to each other within the actual dimensions of the city. But also, very importantly, it allows people who can't see, people who are blind or visually impaired, to actually feel the space. You can get an idea for the shapes of the buildings. You can get an idea for the spaces between buildings by actually through using touch. So that element, which actually don't tend to think about, but if you are unsighted, to get an actual idea about the shape of a building So then when you actually go and stand in front of it, you get the sounds and the smells, but you've also got an internal impression of what it looks like. Is extremely important, once again, for helping people who have different abilities to experience and enjoy culture. And at the bottom there we have this is it's a pottery space in Extremadura in Spain, where disabled people are able to actually go and make culturally related pots and pottery to actually get them involved in making objects which would have been from previous cultures or would have been part of their own culture in the past. So once again, it's enabling people with different abilities to take part in both activities and experience those things which a lot of us just take for granted. There's this is a picture from Iași in Romania, where one of the main streets has all these book stalls, second-hand bookstores located along the space. This is obviously dear to my heart. I come from Hay-on-Wye in Wales, and which is known as the second-hand book capital of the world. So seeing little bookshops in spaces always is a source of joy. But what's nice is that you create the streets. We often think as ways of getting from one space to another, but including streets, and particularly cultural heritage streets within cultural spaces, making them multi-purpose spaces where we live in the street as well as just use it from getting from A to B, is really important. You make them alive, you make them available for everyone to use, and there's spaces where people will stay and share and enjoy those spaces, which not only makes it a useful space, but also encourages people to spend longer, to slow down a bit, to actually maybe spend some more money, but maybe appreciate the spaces they are in. And clearly, through the COVID situation at the moment, there's lots of streets all over the world now which are being stopped from traffic going down them in order to allow social distancing while people are shopping or walking around. My hometown is the same now. We now have pedestrianised the main street for the first time in years, well, ever. And it's because this situation, the pandemic, actually allows people to experiment in new ways of going, do we need to share the space? Do we need cars to be a dominant thing within these streets? How do we actually reclaim some of that spaces, those spaces, which allow us to start appreciating that cultural heritage again? Data management. So one of the key things about managing cultural heritage is using information and using data sensibly and intelligently. These are two examples here. One is from Perugia here in Italy. These are intelligent traffic light systems. For those who have been to Perugia, you will know that traffic is sometimes challenging within the city. And these intelligent traffic light systems are partly monitor and rely on data collected from the roads and the streets around to monitor traffic flows and change the traffic light systems to allow vehicles and movement of traffic in more sensible ways. So if there's a traffic jam over here, it allows them to move over there. So it's about managing traffic in a much more sensible way by taking data from the roads and utilizing it in intelligent systems. And on the right-hand side here, we have in Vadstena in Sweden, they have an app which is called Discover Vadstena, and it's a fantastic tourist resource. You can see all the things which you can go and visit around Vadstena. But it also, what's interesting is it allows for the data of how cultural heritage is being used. So let's say for some reason there's a big event taking place at a castle, so it's very busy over there. It would actually encourage people to go perhaps somewhere else where it's quieter, so you can manage the flows of people. So there's less, so you can actually, using the data of information, live information from cultural heritage sites, you can actually influence visitors and tourists to go to quieter spaces. So you manage people through the use of data, which once again allows you, has less impact on some of those bigger sites and allows the spread of impacts to be lessened across your cultural heritage spaces. Electrical vehicles, mass transportation. So it's obviously from a point of view of removing both noise, pollution from our cities. Obviously has a bigger impact on health from reducing air pollution, but also the impact of pollution and pollutants on cultural heritage buildings is quite large. So if you can take out some of the pollution, you actually reduce some of the damage being done to our cultural heritage. And the two examples here is a electric road train in Pécs in Hungary, and of course the mini metro here in Perugia. Both low environmental impact ways of moving masses of people around urban areas. E-bikes and e-cargo bikes. The invention and the acceptance of e-bikes within both rural and urban areas makes a big difference to both the pollution once again and noise within cities, but also reducing the impact of transport and traffic. Obviously has a big impact, a big influence on the way in which we manage cultural heritage. And I'm particularly interested in the way in which using e-bikes for transporting cargo, either whether that's post, whether it's the last mile of delivery. We have a business over in the UK called pedicabs, where the big TNT delivery vehicles or the big couriers, they drop, they take the big articulated lorry to the edge of the city, they leave the parcels in the depot, and then the e-bikes take it around that last mile of the city. And they can do it cheaper, they can do it quicker, and they can do it in a more healthy way than the vans used to be able to do it going around the city. And it's a fantastic way of managing the movement of goods around urban areas. This business pedicabs in Hereford in the UK. The guy here has just invented this new way of actually delivering skips. So he can now tow a 1-ton skip on the back of his e-bike, deliver it to a business, and take away the previous skip, which was loaded with rubbish, back to his depot for sorting. And once again, he is undercutting the big skip lorries, which would cost several £100,000 and need 3 people. He is now doing it 1 person with an e-bike. And I think that's where you have these new ways, these disruptive ways of changing business in a really positive way. The Urban Lab, we've already heard about from Chiara here in Perugia, this idea of bringing together people to discuss and debate ways of working outside of the typical sterile meeting room. It's one of my pet hates is conferences and meeting rooms. They're all pretty much all the same, and I don't think there's ever been a good idea come out of a conference or a meeting room. They're sterile spaces that they don't enable us to feel inspired. If you ask anyone about being inspired, no one says, I was at a conference and got inspiration, or I was in a meeting. You get inspiration at the party at 2 o'clock in the morning. You get inspiration when you're walking through the park. You get inspiration when you're sitting playing with your kids. It's when you relax and enjoying yourself is when you actually get your inspiration. So trying to create spaces within our work life where we try and allow that to happen. And the Urban Lab is one of those ways of doing it. It's getting people out of those spaces, trying to find different ways of a more relaxing way where your brain is free to start thinking about and debating, but also making sure you are bringing people in who operate in different spaces to get them talking. Smart shrinking, we've also heard about from our colleagues in Pécs in Hungary, this idea of not just planning for growth, but planning for the shrinking of cities. It's one of those natural phases that cities go through, the growth phase and also the shrinking phase. And how you do that intelligently, how you do that in a way which is sustainable, so you can both manage the local people and the businesses as well as your cultural heritage, which is very important. And since we've already had quite a lot of information on smart shrinking, I won't spend any more time on it. I think one of the most fascinating and interesting things we've looked at as part of SHARE is not just repurposing cultural heritage, but how you add value to existing spaces. The example here is in Srebrenik in Croatia. This is a event space which has been built on top of a fortress, a castle. It's an amazing location. You've got these fantastic views, as you can see. You've still got the castle underneath it, which is still its cultural heritage. You can still walk around the castle. You can still get your cultural fix. But you created a new space on top of it, which both allows for a multi-purpose use of the space, gets back to making it more viable commercially, and also gets people valuing it in different ways. So you can have music up there, you can have theatre up there. You're bringing new people into a space where otherwise they might have gone, it's a boring castle. Now, in order to get to this space, you walk through the castle. So you're giving people a new way of experiencing these old cultural heritage. So just to very rapidly conclude, there's been some amazing examples of inspiring ways of managing cultural heritage throughout this project. But there are three key things which I think anyone undertaking sustainable management of cultural heritage need to include if it's going to be successful. And these are not just for sustainable management, this is in general. But the three key areas is firstly, communication. There's a fairly well-known statistic that 80% of businesses which fail, and the number one reason why projects fail is a breakdown of communication somewhere in the process. So the ideas of stakeholder involvement, raising awareness, the inclusion, transparency, listening, and feedback are crucial. Getting those communication methods are crucial if you're going to sustainably manage your cultural heritage. Theodor Zeldin, who's a philosopher who has written many books, but one of my favorite books by him is a book called Conversation. And he talks about the problem of how professionally as we develop our professional knowledge, we have to come up with new words to explain these new concepts we're talking about. Things like, we've just mentioned one, smart shrinking. And these new words, if we're not careful, can alienate the vast majority of the people who live and work within the spaces which we are trying to manage, these cultural heritage spaces. We create these silos of language. And it's really important that we take time to think about the language we use so that we're explaining these ideas, these concepts that allow everyone to feel included. If they feel included and they value it, then they're more likely, the cultural heritage is more likely to be successfully managed. The second area is education. It's crucial to raise the level of knowledge and understanding at all levels and ages. If people don't or can't understand the issues, then poor decisions will be made or endorsed. And there's plenty of examples of poor decisions being endorsed by populations because they haven't understood the impacts or the concepts behind those decisions or the ideas. So an educated public, educated population is crucial to help us manage those sustainable spaces. And the third and final is collaboration. And the SHARE project is a fantastic example of that collaboration, working together, sharing knowledge, open and transparent decision-making. It can be scary because you are exposing yourself to possibly people saying you're wrong, but if you're transparent about stuff and willing to listen to others, then we'll get stronger and better decisions about managing spaces. More and more businesses are having to adapt working practices, particularly at the moment with COVID, but in general, we have to become more rapidly evolving. The technology now is moving so fast that no one company, no one business, no one organization can keep track of it on its own. We don't have the capacity individually to deliver things on our own. We have to work together. And by collaborating, we bring in and making sure we're bringing in people from different expertise, different backgrounds, we get a stronger and more diverse management of our cultural heritage, and in doing so, are more likely to be successful. So in conclusion, communication, education, collaboration, and we will get a better and more sustainable managed cultural heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy, for this presentation. Your work with us was very important because it brought to our attention features that are not part of our policies or project. I'm particularly fond of the e-cargo bike business that is being developed right now in Perugia. As a Perugian, born and bred, I know how difficult it is to cycle in my city. My city is hilly, very hilly, very, very hilly. It's cycling is not just happening in Perugia. So to actually carry cargo with a e-bike is really something that shows commitment and really a strong belief in sustainability. Something that is very important, and also for reminding us how education and information, how important they are in sustainability. And I would like to add, not only in that, in any decision-making process, including casting our votes, because that's also the basis for choices or not choices about sustainability. So thank you very much. Thank you. Last but not least, we are now going to leave the floor to the University of Greenwich. The University of Greenwich has been an advisory partner. I'm going to explain briefly what this bureaucratic term means. The Interreg Europe program is devoted to partners who manage or partners who have a managing authority that delegates them to participate, who manage policies. So our focus, our key work is improving policies, regional, local governments, development agencies, municipalities. However, an advisory partner is a partner who doesn't manage, has got nothing to do with policies, but provides an added expertise, an outside view to the partners in order for them to perform better their policy improvement work. It could be a chamber of commerce, it could be, such as in this case, a university, but it is a partner, an institution that doesn't deal with the policies themselves. In our case, the University of Greenwich provided us with an important, crucial framework based on scientific method and evidence on how to carry out the researches and the collecting of the information that were necessary for us to actually exchange our experiences. The work of the university was crucial to us and very important. And I would like to leave this importance as a legacy of the project to the next programming period, because the advisory partners are important even to programs such as this one, where the exchanging of information is focused on policies. I'm now leaving the floor to Andres Koka-Stefaniak from the University of Greenwich, so that he can explain us all about how this corpus, enormous body of researches was carried out and how important it was to us. I would like to point out that these last two speakers, Andy and now Andres, are both coming from the UK. All preoccupied with COVID, we seem to have forgotten that the UK is leaving us soon. The end of the year will bring the end to our partnership with the UK at European level. You'll be greatly missed, you silly lot. based on our experience, and hopefully we will keep on cooperating through other ways and other means. So Andres, the floor is yours.
Good morning, buongiorno. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we do. Yes, we can.
Thank you for that feedback. I'll just share my screen with you and see if this works. Here we go. Okay, hopefully that will work. Whether I can put this in presentation mode, that's a different story. There we go. That's probably better. Can everyone see that?
Yes, perfect.
Hopefully you can. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, everyone. My name is Andres Stefaniak, and as Chiara pointed out, I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with such a wonderful group of colleagues over the last 4 years. I wouldn't have been able to do this without the help of two extremely valuable colleagues. Ray, who was there from the start, and you'll see a picture of Ray in one of our earlier meetings in Spoleto. And more recently, Tina, who's also been helping us out and has attended a number of meetings, including Sweden, Croatia, etc. Now, as an advisory partner on this project, one of the things that we agreed with partners from day one was that in order for our interventions in policymaking to have any credibility, they had to be based on evidence. Evidence is absolutely key. And then, of course, well, it's easy to say that, but then the issue becomes, well, what evidence should we gather? How should we gather it? How should we use it? How do we manage it in a way that it's inclusive, in a way that it's actually led by our most important stakeholders, not by us? We want to influence the key decision makers, but we want that process to be bottom up, i.e. Led by key local stakeholders. Now, my presentation today, or my talk today, is something that I'm going to try to frame around three key areas. One is the expertise that the University of Greenwich has provided to the project in terms of the research that we've helped the team, the partnership to carry out, but also the framework that we've created. We have also contributed, I would like to think, through a management of the knowledge created. And very often, you know, the knowledge was actually coming from the partnership to us. And it was a question of actually developing that further by offering an impartial assessment individually to partners, but also fostering a discussion, a discussion of innovation, a creative discussion that would allow everyone to contribute in a way that they felt safe, they felt happy, they felt valued, and at the same time they felt that what they were doing, be it in Romania, Croatia, Sweden, Spain, Italy, wherever, Hungary, of course, that those initiatives may actually influence in some way the thinking of other partners elsewhere, and even beyond the partnership through the advisory partner. I'll be talking about processes very, very briefly on that front, and that's how do we assess the impact of our project and the method that we've decided to use and agreed with partners, which is again a best practice in this field. And I think we've been commended by the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of Interreg Europe for taking that initiative. Now, the Joint Secretariat of before I get started with expertise and the other elements, I'd like to point out that I'll be sacrificing detail in the perhaps. So I'll be giving you less detail about some certain issues, but I would like to keep the discussion broad. I would like to give you breadth rather than perhaps depth in some areas, but I will be also using examples, specific examples from different partners. So you will see that, and if any of the partners see perhaps some of their slides, not today's slides, but slides from previous meetings replicated, well, apologies in advance for that, but I thought the way that you portrayed your information was probably best. Expertise. As Chiara mentioned, one of the things that we contributed to the project from the outset, and there was a very interesting discussion in Spoleto about this, which included incidentally the managing authority in Italy as well, and then we had great feedback from them, really happy with this framework. The framework that I'm showing you is basically a simplified version of We Agreed, but I'm sacrificing detail for the sake of clarity here. And one of the things that we agreed was, well, if we have the resources and the attractors, basically our heritage, our culture, heritage, tangible and intangible, are right in the middle of the framework, if you will. And then what we're trying to do is to develop sustainable solutions to problems. We're trying to develop these tourism destinations sustainably in a way that we manage them. How do we do this? By incorporating all the debates on smart cities, all the debates on what's smart and what is not, what's innovative and what is not. And for the first time ever, what we did is we created a framework that not only built on existing tourism frameworks, if you wish, cultural tourism, heritage tourism, destination management, and so on and so forth, but also for the first time we created a framework that combined that with the latest thinking in smart cities and smart innovation. And that's where the external layer comes from. And that's what helped it to also to gain that structure in terms of, okay, how can the smart economy, smart people, smart mobility, smart living, etc., influence the way that destinations are managed, and crucially, how much leeway do we have in terms of the sustainable development that we can carry out? Now, all this is fine, but then of course, where do you gather the evidence and how do you do it? And that was the next challenge. But after some discussions, and again, a lot of creative thinking with the partners, we decided that we had to use different methods in order to gather different elements of evidence using different parts of the framework. And all this was a cyclical process whereby, for example, the benchmarking analysis of policy documents would feed back into case studies formed we provided the structure, our partners gave us the ammunition and the information. And in turn, how would that influence this benchmarking and these case studies? How would that influence our discussions with local stakeholders, who at the end of the day had to be the drivers, not only in terms of validating what we were doing, but crucially in many cases, the validating body in terms of driving things forward locally. Because as you know, the greatest ambassador for any single tourism destination will always be its residents and its local businesses. Without them as your biggest ambassador, no matter how much money you throw at it, you will never achieve the success, the potential of that tourism destination. Clearly, also, we needed data, and that's where the survey came in as well, an international survey carried out in all the locations. And I'd like to share with you now perhaps some quick snippets, some quick insights into some of these evidence gathering processes and what came out. I'll be able to do this very briefly, but hopefully will give you an idea of some of the findings and some of the things that perhaps surprised us. People often say that the best research is often the research that raises more questions than the ones that it answers. But hey ho, there you go. Benchmarking. We took policy documents and we from different partners, and we carried out a content analysis of them. And one of the interesting things in these documents is this: once you start taking out perhaps the more dominant concepts or the more dominant words in this case, such as, for example, in the case of PECH in Hungary, if we took out heritage and cultural history, suddenly the picture that emerged is the one that you see on your bottom right-hand side of the screen, which was surprisingly a rather different picture. Even though we were still dealing with the World Heritage Site, suddenly what the policy document was telling us is that it wanted to concentrate on the tourism superstructure, smart living, and a number of issues, perhaps related now, as you heard, to this smart shrinking, but in a way, which in a way can provide a blueprint for future actions across Europe. Not only because of the difficult challenges that tourism is facing now, but crucially because of the movement towards more urban living, urban districts where the employment is being created in the bigger cities. Now, interestingly enough, this case of stripping one word to then find almost a treasure underneath that we didn't quite expect, and very much this smart living and smart agenda is something that came out in a number of other locations as well, including in Romania, in Italy, in Croatia as well. But that was just a policy document. So we needed to find out first what we were dealing with in terms of the policy on the ground before we could even contemplate changing that policy, influencing that policy, or trying to indeed improve it. So for that, we needed evidence. Okay, we've done the policy analysis by this stage. We've done case studies that give us a practical assessment of the issues, the challenges, but also where the opportunities and the strengths lie. And we decided that a survey, a quantitative survey was paramount in order to not only to be able to compare the situation across countries, but crucially to do that in a way that made sense, i.e. we needed the same survey, obviously different languages, but the same survey with the same methodology across all locations. And what we wound up was probably, my understanding is that it's the largest international survey of this type in Europe ever. 6,000 respondents, over 6,000 respondents in fact. They included people with very different agendas, very often conflicting agendas, including tourists, including local residents, including local businesses. But it's important that these agendas, even if they were conflicting at times, it's important that they were brought together and that we could assess them together in single locations, but also across the partnership. So we could see where the priorities lay and also where the commonalities lay between the different cities, the different locations that were surveyed, that were researched. Findings, well, there you go. I did mention conflicting agendas. In this case, Vadstena for Sweden. Well, tourists valued mainly the local heritage and the history of Vadstena, not surprising, a lovely, lovely city. Whereas for residents, well, it was more about safety and security, not surprising. For local businesses, in turn, one of the things that they valued most, and probably the thing that they valued most, was the friendliness of local residents. Why? Because that was a key attractor for the city, and a city that sells itself on the basis of a safe, friendly environment. Well, in this day and age of crisis, whether it's health crisis or whether it's economic or terrorism related, frankly, to feel safe, secure, and surrounded by friendly people, that's, you know, we used to take that for granted. It's no longer quite so easy, particularly in global tourism destinations. Less important factors. Well, there was a common agreement here on the fact that the sharing economy, what sharing economy? We don't have that in Sweden. Of course you do. Of course you do, and the sharing economy is playing an increasing role everywhere, for better or for worse. Sometimes linked to over-tourism, but that's a different debate. But when we saw this, we thought, really, the sharing economy is not important for Vadstena? Why? And then it clicked. And in conversation with our partners in Sweden, we realized that actually one of the main reasons for this is that the vast majority of tourists or visitors arriving in Vadstena looked like something like this. Day trippers. Of course, if they're day trippers, you know, they don't need to stay overnight. So sharing economy, what's sharing economy? It's not important. Now, these tourists, as our Croat partners will have spotted out, are not in sunny Sweden. They're right at the other end of Europe. They're in Šibenik, in Croatia. You know, to some extent, day trippers is an issue for Croatia as well. So not surprisingly, well, for Šibenik specifically, and very often linked to cruise tourism. But not surprisingly, because of that, some of the interventions that you will have seen mentioned by our friends and partners from Sweden and from Croatia revolved around issues related to how can we get visitors to stay longer? How can we get them to enjoy a longer day at our destination? How can we get them to go beyond just the main site and explore the area around a little bit more? How can we get them to stay with us longer? And in Croatia, well, again, you know, what were the most important factors highlighted? Well, in their case, the survey outlined a number of issues, including accessibility, including the quality of the visitor experience, and crucially, the authenticity of experiences. And that authenticity is probably something that in many ways you will have seen as nebulous and as abstract as authenticity, or the concept of authenticity, can be these days in this globalized world. You have probably seen glimpses of it in the interventions that our partners presented on. And that's an absolutely key issue. We witnessed a pilot study or pilot initiative in Šibenik when we were there as part of our study visit, and that was a tour of Šibenik given in a theater style way with actors who brought the history of Šibenik alive. And who told us stories that were their own. Well, their own as actors representing key figures of Šibenik. And they weren't necessarily the sort of people that you will find in the history books of Šibenik. And that was the really interesting things, the really interesting issue. It was residents of past times talking about the Šibenik that they knew, so that we could relate to the Šibenik today. And again, authenticity, really, really interesting issues emerging there. Moving on, knowledge management, again, another area where we as an advisory partner, we did our best to support the partnership. And in many ways, yes, structure, and I'm sure that many of our project partners probably got tired of us, of me, of Ray, of Tina as well, sending them these project briefs. But these project briefs, these project brief documents, essentially, which were always agreed with partners, are meetings in terms of their content, in terms of their process, etc. These set the blueprint and the path to follow for each of the deliverables of the project in a way that they were based on best practice, they were based on the robust assessment of evidence, and so on and so forth. So there are very clear documents that partners could always refer back to and follow, regardless of whether what they were doing was doing a policy benchmarking exercise or getting ready to roll out the survey questionnaire, or recruiting experts for the shared project with the help of a framework that they could explain to those experts and the experts had to work within, or whether they were working on their local action plans to influence policies on the ground. Of course, we've had lots of meetings in different locations and some wonderful and very informative study visits, which many of the partners have alluded to, and Andy Fryer certainly mentioned. Great input there. But you see, when the meeting took place in Greenwich, at the University of Greenwich, one of the wonderful things there was not only to be able to run the ideas of the shared project past the destination, the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the destination management organization for Greenwich, Visit Greenwich. He provided us feedback on what we were trying to do. He also presented some of his challenges in Greenwich, partly as a result of those conversations with us. Well, guess what? The latest project in Greenwich, Visit Greenwich, is bringing smart initiatives and smart thinking into their portfolio for the visitor experience. I'd like to think that a lot of these things were influenced by Share. So it wasn't just us benefiting from what others had to tell us or what others had to share with us, but crucially, we were able to influence practice elsewhere as well. The debates that took place in Greenwich was informed also by academics, some of whom were global experts on destination management and destination marketing, and many of whom have contributed to the International Journal of Tourism Cities, which I run with Professor Alistair Morrison, who's a professor of tourism at the University of Greenwich. We've also just published the Rutledge Handbook of Tourism Cities, which again is influenced by a lot of the ideas from the Share project. In the journal, if I may, guess which special issue has been the most downloaded in the history of this journal. And that special issue was only published about a year ago. Well, it's a special issue on the marketing of smart tourism destinations. It's wonderful in that sense, but for me, the thing that makes me really proud is that in many ways, that's what a lot of the work that we've done in the Share project has been about. It wasn't just academic practitioner. It was also policy. It was also influence on policy making. These pictures that you see down here are actually us, or in this particular case, me, giving evidence to a special committee on the decline of high streets in the UK at the Houses of Parliament in Westminster in London. Again, the SHARE project was mentioned there with some of the preliminary findings of the survey at that stage. You know, very much the message there was, well, look, folks, you can look at retail as much as you want, and you can continue to have a mindset driven by retail, but maybe our town centers should offer something a little bit more than a shopping experience, yeah? And this is what we're doing in the SHARE project. This is the smart thinking linked to the visitor experience. And maybe it's that visitor experience that some of the smaller towns, not necessarily London, London's got plenty of it, but some of the smaller towns in the UK should be concentrating on. Moving swiftly on. Processes, and with this I will end my presentation. One of the key processes that we were able to contribute with to this project, apart from all the other elements of structure that we've already mentioned, was a roadmap to policy impact, very much affecting phase 2 of the project. So we've gathered the evidence, we're happy with the evidence, we have that evidence has influenced our decision making at partner level all along, in terms of reviewing existing policies, in terms of formulating local action plans, in terms of engaging with local stakeholders. But how do we measure the impact of the project on local policies, local or regional policies? And this is where, again, we were praised, I'm proud to say, by the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat, in the sense that we adopted a system, followed a best practice system, at least in the UK, followed by the UK government for assessing the impact of research at UK universities. Every 7 years, we have a big assessment at universities in the UK called the Research Excellence Framework. And within that Research Excellence Framework, one of the most valued elements is case studies of impact, of practical impact. Never mind, you know, which journals has the research been published in. That's important, you know, their standing, their global standing, etc., etc. But what impact has the research of given universities had on the ground, on local communities, on the economy, on real life issues that impact people in a real way? Yeah. That's exactly the framework that we adopted, and that's what we're working on now. Our partners are sending us the evidence. The process of influencing policy will last until December, but we're compiling again a very interesting report on this front, which has built on evidence collected by the project, and it goes back to evidence in the sense that we only claim impact where we can show that the SHARE project has been mentioned, where there is evidence linking that impact to our project specifically. And folks, I realize I'm the last hurdle between you and a deserved late coffee break or early lunch. So with this, I would like to end, and thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you, Andres, for this presentation that showed us how important the research work we've done has been to the project. I must underline especially the survey that was very much appreciated at local level, because in most cases, this is definitely the case of my region, Umbria, governments or agencies don't have enough money to do surveys. So this was, I think, the only one we've done in many years showed us how the local communities perceive tourism and pressure on cultural heritage, and something, the results of which we will be using outside the boundaries of the project as well. And it's great to see that SHARE was able to influence also the work of our advisory partners, something that wasn't expected nor forecasted. And I consider this one outstanding accomplishment. And Andres, congratulations on the publication of your handbook, something that we are going to, promote in other presentations, since it includes the inspiration coming from our project. We are wrapping up our event now with a debate from if people want to ask questions or participate. I know this is very difficult when you are connected online, and also this has been quite a long event with a lot of participation so far, but it's been going on for over 3 hours. So I will see whether we have any communication or questions, or even input coming from our viewers. But that I have one last thing that maybe Andres can discuss further, or Andy, or anyone, talking about the fact that we started worrying about over tourism, and now we're worrying about under tourism. In Italy, we have the example of Venice, where there was a big outcry, especially last year, with all these huge cruise liners, and this year Venice has been totally deserted by international tourists. But there have been a lot of proposals, and one of them that was published in the Corriere della Sera over the summer talked about the fact that perhaps we should just forget all about destination hoppings, short weekends breaks, all the things that we've been enjoying now so far with low cost flying and low cost Airbnbs, and maybe develop a strategy that will promote and enhance a sort of like a residential tourism, going back to our youth, to the 70s, where a vacation was something that you took for, over 2 weeks, staying in one place, enjoying the place, discovering. Since we have had mostly domestic tourism in all our countries, probably this is something we could improve and maybe promote even more in the future. And the Corriere della Sera went so far to actually propose that tourism could fuse with smart working, and tourism destination could also provide environments, including all the necessary technology for people to stay well over their holidays in order to keep on working from a holiday destination from home in a smart way. So I don't know, it's just ideas that are floating around, but I think they could be very useful in order to change our mindset in terms of our cities, our destinations, our heritage.
Yes, Chiara, if I may, I agree. There's a number of debates at the moment with regards to, where are we going with over tourism? How long is the pandemic going to last? With all the social distancing rules in place, is it going to last until a vaccine is found? Well, if that's the case, then how effective will be the vaccine? I'm no virologist, but some experts say that the immunity that you get from having suffered the illness, COVID, is only temporary. And it's really only short term. Is it going to be the same thing with a vaccine? Or is the virus going to fizzle out in the same way that the SARS pandemic of 2003, 2004 did? There's other elements. For example, some people would say, well, maybe one of the things that this is going to encourage us to do, as you said, is to take longer holidays in some destinations, perhaps adopt a more regional approach, whereby, well, I don't want to stay in Venice, or I don't want to stay in Barcelona, it's too crowded. I want a more authentic experience, which means that I'm going to stay in a house in the countryside and maybe only visit Barcelona or Venice for one day, or maybe I'm going to live on one of the islands that surround Venice, which are much cheaper. And hey, you're only a short Vaporetto ride away from Venice. And meanwhile, because it's going to be a longer holiday, I'm going to take my work with me. But equally, there are those who say, well, maybe what we need, particularly given this strain, the mental strain, and sometimes physical strain too, that lockdown conditions are creating for people working from home, maybe what we actually need is a holiday from technology and a detox, a digital detox holiday. So how is that going to pan out with smart tourism destinations? I've written an article on this recently where I argue that basically we need a new generation of smart tourism destinations. The technology-driven approach that we have at the moment could soon become obsolete, to be honest.
Yeah, that's. I think there will be a lot of work for us to do in the coming years, and it will be a an uncertain but also maybe an exciting time in order to experiment new projects, new way of doing things. Since I don't see any other participant to the debate, I just leave you now with some information for Kathleen. I just want to remind you all who participated that you can send us your questions or anything you want to know to all of us as lead partner or all the other partners in case you want to know more. Before Kathleen leaves you with this practical information, this has been, as I was saying at the beginning, a bittersweet ending to our project, but I'm happy to say that it has been a very successful final conference with a lot of viewing on Facebook, over 2,000, a lot of participation from people everywhere. So I'm happy to say that we did achieve something also in terms of interest and awareness raising from people outside our project partnerships. So that was really one accomplishment. It was great to work with you all, and hopefully we will do that again in the future. There's still a lot of programming to do and lots of projects that we can do in the future. So let's all be prepared. But we won't end here, as Kathleen is going to remind you all. Yes. So Kathleen, please.
Well, I want to thank everyone who joined us online. Some people joining us are not project partners, some are stakeholders or other interested, and thank you for spending your morning with us. We will make the presentations and I think a recording of the webcast available through the SHARE website. Through the webcast has been hosted by Sviluppo Umbria's Facebook, and we welcome any questions and comments there or on the SHARE Facebook. You can find a link to that from the SHARE website. And so check back in a few days. You should find information in the SHARE website library. Go there and you can download presentations. We also invite anyone who has more interest in following topics on cultural heritage and its importance and impact in the lives of people in the communities where it's located. That's what we're going to be talking about during our EU Week presentation with the Finch and Innocastle projects. That's going to be on the 14th of October. Register for that by the 27th of September. And if you go to the SHARE website or the Sviluppo Umbria website, you can find the link to go there and register at the EU Week site. For those of you listening in who are project partners, we're going to have the project partner meeting starting at 3:30 Central European Time, 2:30 for those of you in England. So you have time to get some work done and have lunch, and we'll meet you. You should have received the link that it says separate Zoom link. And if you haven't got it, send a message, send an SMS to Chiara or WhatsApp or something, and we'll get you that if you didn't receive it.
One last thing.
Sorry?
No, go on.
Okay. And so thank you everyone again for being with us. And project partners, we'll see you back here in a few hours.
Just as a final thing, I would like to thank the colleagues here in Foligno for the hospitality, for the organization, their willingness to help us opening this office well before our usual time. So thank you, Alessio, especially, because he was so kind to come here in the early hours, and all of us for helping us organizing all this. Thank you for the technical support that we had. You all contributed to this great meeting. But last but not least, I think I need to thank our team, the people working on Share with me, Kathleen Foderaro, who's just presented all the next activities, Valeria Manna. We were a great team, and Erika Squadroni and Armando Fizzarotti, they're all here in presence and have been great companions in these 4 years. Thank you very much. Thank you all, and see you next time, hopefully vis-a-vis.
Okay. Goodbye.